Why would someone use my email as their recovery email? Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. If you're not getting Confident Computing, my weekly newsletter, go visit askleo.com/newsletter and sign up today. Get access to new articles, new answers, new solutions, and more confidence every week. Let's go right to the question. It seems my Gmail address is being used as a recovery address for several random emails, so I am receiving notifications from Google. How to stop this? Boy, this happens to me all the time. It really does. And unfortunately, it turns out there's very little you can actually do. Let's examine why it happens and what little you can do about it. I'm pretty convinced that the number one reason is typos. Somebody actually intended to type in an email address that they own, that is theirs, correctly for a recovery address, and they typo it. They get a letter wrong, or they get a domain wrong, or they get something wrong. And it was close enough that the typo of their email address turned out to be your email address. And they didn't notice. They just set it up as the recovery email address for their account. I see this occasionally on recovery email addresses. I see this actually on account primary addresses. It's unfortunate because since we don't know who the originator is, who the person is that actually did the typo, we have no way to tell them that they did the typo. It just happens. The other, number two on my list of three actually, is what I'll call avoidance. This is more common, I think, amongst what I'll call the younger crowd because they don't have email, they don't want email, they don't want to be bothered with email, so they just enter something. So because they have to enter an email address, so they enter something. And that something happens to be your email address or my email address. I think this is more common when your email address or mine is one of the simple ones, like leo@askleo.com, for example, my public email address for sending questions. Yeah, I've seen that used as recovery email addresses or primary account email addresses all the time. And I really do think it's because the kids are lazy. They don't want to have an email address, so they'll just type something that they know is valid and hope that that's enough. Most of the time it's not. Most of the time they actually have to respond to something sent to that email address, which if I gave them on the receiving end, never respond to. But the point is that I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to avoid having an email account for this kind of stuff, so they just enter in one that they know is valid. And of course, number three, this I think happens to people in a semi-public view more than others. I'll just call mischief. There are people who have signed me up for stuff that I don't want, that I don't care to see. They just intentionally use my email address for a variety of reasons. And again, there's no real way of understanding who they are or why they might be doing this. But those, I think, are the three big reasons: typos, avoidance, and mischief, the three big ones. Now, the question, of course, is what can you do with it? There are essentially two things to do. One, ignore it. Just delete the messages as they come in. And honestly, that's what I do, because the other approach, the other solution is to, for some of the emails, there may be a link that says, is this not you? Did you not request this? Is this not somehow related to you? In other words, the service seems to be accounting for the very scenario we're talking about, that somebody has signed you up for something you didn't sign up for, or they've typoed an email address as a recovery email address or whatever. So the service is giving you the opportunity to say, no, that's not me. I'm not doing that. I will do that sometimes, but very, very rarely. And the reason is pretty simple. That's also very, very phishing-like. In other words, if you got an email that seemed to indicate that you were getting signed up for something, and oh, by the way, here's the link to click that says it's not you, that could just as easily be a phishing attack. It could just as easily be somebody trying to attack your account to get you to log in, to get you to do something, whatever. So I rarely click on those links. I will if I can verify that the link is going to someplace that I think it should. Like it really is going to that service, that it's not going to be asking me for login credentials, which of course I would never enter after clicking such a link. But the point is that for the most part, sometimes it's an okay thing to do. The safest thing to do, in fact, outside of those, perhaps the only real safe thing to do, ignore them, delete them. Mark them as spam if you like, if they're coming from services that you find objectionable, which is, of course, one of the things that can happen. But for the most part, don't act on them and just get on with your life. Now, preventing this can't be prevented. There is no way to prevent someone from entering your email address, legitimately or otherwise, into an online form or a newsletter subscription or a recovery address. There's just no way to prevent it. There's no way to say, don't do that. There's no way, there's no registry to put yourself on. There just isn't. Anybody can send you email at any time. And that is the way that these services work. They send you an email. It's also the reason that email newsletters are best served when they use what's called confirmed opt-in. In other words, somebody enters your email address to a newsletter subscription. That newsletter then should send you an email saying, did you want this? If you didn't, if that wasn't you signing up, you ignored that confirmation. But if it was you, well, of course, you would know it was you and you would hit the confirmation link. That's why double opt-in exists, because of this scenario, because of people entering in your email address in places where they didn't intend to, or they had some kind of malicious intent. But ultimately, no, there's no preventing it. The only thing you can do is delete it, maybe spam it, and get on with your life. I hope that was helpful. For updates, for links related to this article, for the original article that this video was based on, visit askleo.com/135588. I'm Leo Notenboom. This is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.